my son screams, "Mommy, TK stopped breathing." So then the doctor comes to me and she says to me, "I'm sorry, but dead on arrival." I said to that doctor, "Not my child. It can't be. My daughter was not sick. She can't be dead." And the doctor says to me, "The machine is breathing for your child." So all I could hear was toot, 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 toot. And then she says to me, "Please just wait and listen." So as it's going toot, 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 there's a toot. Then it stops. Then after a few minutes, toot. And she says, "Those ones your daughter's fighting." That's when social media went at me. That's when the so-called Christians said, "Touch not my anointed." You went and spoke about TB Joshua 3 days ago. Now the God of TB Joshua is showing you who he is. Your daughter died because you spoke about TB Joshua. Stop talking about the man of God, otherwise your son is next. That is when social media, that is when I learned that Christians are cruel.
I don't know if you're here to check if the podcast is fake. If what we do is, I don't know, there's nefarious reasons. If there's, I don't know, some corners we're cutting.
Maybe I have to check is this a fake podcast or if it's a real one. But no, I'm not.
How's your heart today?
Today my heart is, I won't say it's at peace, but it's just at a place of contentment.
Contentment?
Contentment because I think for the past few days I was a fruitcake. I think 3 days before I came here, I had an episode with my son who suffered from a migraine. And I almost lost it because I don't know if you know, I lost my daughter on the 11th of January 2024 from a ruptured brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
And so when he was suffering from a migraine, immediately my whole body, everything about me just took me back to the day my daughter passed on, because one of the last few things she said was, "Mommy, my head's about to explode." And so when my son came to me at night crying, saying, "Mommy, my head is sore," and I had to rush him to hospital, the same hospital that my daughter passed on in. And when the doctors checked him, they said, no, they still confirmed he doesn't have any aneurysms. They just said it's possibly stress. So then we had to get the psychiatrist involved, and he's been diagnosed with depression. And so his medication is now being taken up a notch higher. And yeah, I'm just grateful for the circle that I'm grateful that I'm able to afford private medical health care.
Sure.
And I'm grateful for the fact that when such emergencies happen with my son, I was able to jump
Step
and
up.
rush. Yeah. And so he was okay. He was just put in a drip. He was fine. Sorted him out, gave him medication, and he's on anxiety and depression medication, and he's seeing a psychiatrist. Now it's twice a week. It's back to twice a week. So grief is not easy. I mean, it's 1 year, 4 months since my daughter passed on.
Yeah.
And people will think we should be okay. But people forget that I carry my own personal grief. I carry my son's grief. I carry my daughter's friends' griefs. Because each time they see me, they'll be like, "Oh, TK's mom, we miss her." And I have to give them a happy version of me. I carry the grief of my family members who sometimes will call me and say, oh, Godwa Sisi, why did this child leave us? So I carry the grief of women who will call me, DM me, inbox me, who will say, I lost a child 10, 20 years ago and I'm still not coping. And I think, if you've lost a child 10, 20 years ago and you're still not coping, Mina,
Does it take? Yeah.
how long
yeah,
does it take?
yeah.
Mine was 1 year, 4 months. And I carry the grief of what social media had to say when my daughter passed on. So my grief is multifaceted, multifaceted, still learning to forgive the bloggers, learning to forgive people who thought they knew my life better than me.
Bullies, that's what they are.
Bullies, yes, bullies. Learning to forgive them, because when my daughter passed on the 8th of January 2024, there was a documentary that dropped, the BBC documentary, The Disciples. Women and men from all over the world who were victims of abuse
Yes.
by the late TB Joshua spoke out.
Yes.
And this was a documentary that was shot
Over years. Yeah.
I remember BBC flew into South Africa to come and shoot my segments. I think this was during COVID. And during that COVID period. And I didn't know who else they were seeing.
Yes.
All I knew is that
I've told my story.
And I knew that there were other people who left the church, who were in the church with me, that are telling their stories, but they wouldn't give us the names. We only found out at our reunion to say, oh, even you, because there was a divide and rule pattern.
Yeah.
But so when that documentary dropped on the 8th of January, I remember BBC sent down, we had a psychologist in our house that night, and my kids got to preview it, I think 2 weeks before. I literally had to prepare them, and they knew what their mom went through, but they previewed it. But on the 8th when it dropped, we had a psychologist from BBC there, in case any of us have a breakdown. So my kids knew the pain their mom grew up in. And that's why my daughter was a public speaker. She was fantastic. And that's why she would always say, my mother is fearless, so shall I be. And my daughter was a gender-based violence and femicide activist. Because I own a foundation. Well, I'm a founder of a Kwanele Foundation,
yes,
which is an NPO that advocates against gender-based violence and femicide. So she was the voice for her peers. So she would be the one that would educate children her age about, hey, child line number has changed. It's now 116. She would be the one that would speak on Be Kind. I mean, if people went on Kwanele Foundation's social spaces, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, they will see my daughter's videos, which we still play even now, which are relevant for her peers. So on the 8th of January, the BBC documentary dropped.
Okay.
And that's when, now, why BBC brought a psychologist to be with us, we were already prepared and briefed about the bullies that might come from the documentary.
Sure.
But even for my kids, we watched the documentary, part 1, part 2, part 3. We were okay. And I remember my daughter saying, Mommy, I'm so sorry you went through this as a child. And my son and my daughter, it made them understand why their mother's so fearless. Especially because 4 years prior, before this documentary dropped, my own biological mother and my biological sister got a protection order against my children and I. That's because I had already started speaking about the abuse that I'd been in.
In the church.
Because
they are still in the church. Oof.
So I think it was 3 years prior. But, but at that time, my daughter was 6, so it was 4 years prior. So my kids, it made sense to... Because my kids would always ask me, why aren't we allowed to go to Gogo's house as freely as my siblings' children? Why is it that when we want to go and see Gogo, we must make appointments? So I literally had to sit down and tell them the truth, to say, this is what's happening now, especially when I got the protection order, to say, this is the protection order. We're not allowed to go to Gogo's house. We need to stay away from Gogo's house. And the protection order stands for, I think, 5 to 10 years.
10.
10 years, yeah. And I said to them, and we're not allowed to mention Gogo's name. We're not allowed to mention my senior sister's name. So I had to make my kids understand. So my kids are kids that grew up going through therapy. So my kids had to go through therapy to understand why their grandmother does not want them. She doesn't want you because of me. And until I can renounce and publicly say to the world, I lied, I'm sorry. Philip Banda, who is my mom's main pastor from Zambia, he's the one that introduced me to TB Joshua. Until I can say Philip Banda and TB Joshua did not do what I say they did, they want nothing to do with me and my children.
Your mom has excommunicated you and your children.
Yes.
Because you say she has been brainwashed by the church.
100%. I mean, I have a sister who's married to my mom's brother. My sister's married to my uncle. And he's a pastor.
How?
Himself. How? Those are things, I mean, according that protection order says, I can't even say the names. But I was shocked. None of the Sibisi family, now Sibisi is my dad's family. No one in my dad's family was invited to that wedding. That wedding was a wedding that was prepared hush-hush. People who were there say they were told no cameras, no footage, nothing. And if you're close to Sihle, you were not invited to that wedding. So that was one of the straws of how my mom married into the Sibisi family. Her surname is Nkosi. And now my biological sister, her surname is Nkosi, because she's married to my mom's younger brother. So she's Mrs. Nkosi now. And my mom's brother is a pastor. And they have a church.
This is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. In today's episode, our guest Sihle Sibisi dives into the devastating loss of her daughter to a brain aneurysm and the abuse she's faced online. Through this, we are reminded of how trauma affects us on every level. For us men in particular, grief often comes with silence. Society expects men to be pillars of strength, but never gives them the space to break down. Men are often expected to carry the world on their shoulders, to provide, to protect, to perform. But where does that pressure go? Too often, it stays bottled up, and the silence can lead to burnout, depression, and even unhealthy habits. The truth, strength doesn't mean doing it all alone. It means being brave enough to talk about what's going on and get the support that you deserve. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. With over 5,000 therapists in the UK, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. It's simple, flexible, and fits into your life, and you can switch therapists anytime with no hassle. Even if you haven't tried therapy before, it's an empowering way to learn how to cope, set boundaries, and show up as the best version of yourself. And not just for others, but for you. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our viewers get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/engineer your life. That's betterhelp.com/engineer your life.
And this is me who's standing up and saying the ills of the church, guys, you know.
Here you are helping other people, strangers.
But I can't help my own family because I have a protection order. I can't even stand there.
Sure.
You understand? So, taking you back to, so my kids had to go through therapy.
January
it was painful.
2024.
No, I'm saying from the age of 6.
Okay.
My daughter was 6. My son and my daughter are 4 years apart. My son was 10. They're going through therapy to understand why is it that our mother's mother does not want us or receive us as well as she receives others. So they've been going through therapy their whole life. So now the documentary drops the cyberbullying starts. People are calling me names. Bloggers are saying I'm a
Cloud chaser.
prostitute, I'm a cloud chaser. Like bloggers from everywhere. People are saying what they want. I was prepared for it mentally. But even though I knew my kids were also prepared for it mentally, as a mother, I was also worried about them.
Correct, yeah.
Fast track to 3 days later. So the documentary drops on the 8th of January.
Yes.
On the 11th, my daughter, this whole day, and here's the thing, throughout December, she had just turned 10 years old on Christmas Day, on the 25th of, she was born on Christmas. She just turned 10. And she insisted that the whole family must come. So all her cousins was there.
Yeah.
I remember the house was full. Everybody slept over. And, but she had this thing where she wanted to sleep with me most of the time.
Yeah.
So she'd be with me 1 week in her bedroom, 1 week in my bedroom. So, and she'd write me love letters, lots of love letters. And I remember one of the last love letters she wrote to me was, "Dear mommy, thank you for making life possible." And then she wrote, "Dear mommy, thank you for allowing me to be who I am and for making me understand that I can make mistakes and you still love me." But one letter that she wrote that hit me hard was, "I will love you until the day I die." And it's a red heart. And she loved cooking. She loved baking. She's the girl where I'd be sitting in an interview. When I walk out, she'd probably have a voice note saying, "Mom, I just made rice and mince." And I'd be like, "How?" She's like, "No, I was watching a YouTube video and I made." That's the type of girl she was. So on the 11th, my daughter was fine. There was nothing wrong with my daughter. I remember she was busy on YouTube doing some makeup thing. She did this, she says, an ombre thing. So had different colors of makeup on her face. So she came into my bedroom, school holidays, so we used to sleep late. So she comes into my bedroom around, I think, just before midnight. She comes into my bedroom and she's like, "Mommy, look at my makeup." And something in me just said, "Record this." And I recorded it. And I said to her, "You look so pretty. How did you learn to do this makeup?" And she says, "No, I was watching a video on YouTube and this is the new ombre makeup." I said, "Oh, okay." But something in me prompted me to reassure her. And I said to her, "Who's your mommy? Who's your mommy? Who's your mommy?" She says, "You." And I said, "Who's your brother? Who's your brother?" She's like, "MK," because MK stands for Mkanyisi. That's my son's name.
Yes.
And then I asked her, "Who loves you more than anyone in this world?" And she says, "God." And I said, "After God?" She says, "Jesus." I said, "After Jesus?" She says, "It's my mom." I said, "After my mom?" She says, "My brother." And I said, "I love you forever." And she says, "Yes, Mom." And then I asked her, "Do you want to sleep with me tonight?" She says, "Okay, maybe." And I said, No, go to your room." And then literally, I'm still videoing her. She walks out of the room and I said to her, "Please switch off the light." She switches off the light. She walks out. I stop the video. Less than 2 minutes later, she walks back in, switches on the light. I'm like, "What are you doing?" I take my phone again. I video her. So my bathroom is on my left.
Yeah.
"What are you doing?" "I'm washing my face." So I take a video of her washing her face. She's washing. I'm like, "Why are you washing your face?" She says, "Because I'm going to get pimples if I don't wash my face." So she washes her face and then the video finishes. She leaves. Now I think this was after midnight. But I remember I fell into a deep sleep. But I think a few hours later, from a distance, I could hear my son. I could hear crying and I could hear my son shouting. And then I heard, "Boom," like my door open, like bang open. And my son says, Mom, TK wants you. TK's crying." And I jump up and I'm like, "TK, come." Now we called her TK because she had two names. It's Tebang Kanyisi.
Okay.
So she's TK.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "TK, come." So as I rise from my bed, I see my daughter's crawling on her left side of the body. Like she couldn't walk.
Move. Yeah.
So immediately I jump from my bed and I pick her up and I put her on my bed. I'm like, "Baby, what's going on?" She says, "Mommy, I'm feeling cold." So I said to my son, quickly, put the Corenza C in a glass and let's make her drink. I give her Corenza C and one Adcodol. I'm thinking it will help. Then she starts crying, "Mommy, my head's going to burst. My head's going to explode." And I'm like, "Can you see it?" She says, "Mommy, I'm going blind. Mommy, I'm going blind." And I'm like, what do you mean you're going blind? So she used to sleep with this thing that you put on her face. So I said to the brother, go fetch that mask, because maybe it's the light in my room. Then I put that mask on her, and I'm like, TK, what's going on? Then she starts foaming. Then she starts snots coming out. And I'm like, no, we need to go to the hospital. Then as I say that, for a split second, she takes this mask off. She looks at me and my son, and she says, Mommy and MK, let me sleep. I'll be okay. And then she shuts it back down. And then I run out. As I run out by the passage, my son screams, Mommy, TK has stopped breathing. So I run back into the bedroom and I'm like, what do you mean? So I could see that the movement of the snots that was coming out and the saliva had stopped. And I touched her and I ran out of the house and I stood in the middle of the estate and I started screaming. I'm in my pajamas. I started screaming, and luckily there was a house where the light was still on, and I banged on the door, and luckily the family, they were still awake. And I'm like, please help me. And the man came in, and he came and he helped me pick my daughter up. And so my son sits in the front. I'm in my pajamas and I sit at the back and I've got my daughter on me. And I'm busy pleading with her. I'm like, TK,
Stay with me.
TK, stay with me. And I'm singing songs and I'm like, baby. Now, where I stay to the hospital, it's about 6-7 minutes drive. So we rush to the emergency. When we get to the emergency side, they bring a chair, that wheelchair.
Yes, yes.
And then the nurse sees me holding my daughter and she's like, no, we need a stretcher. They take a stretcher, they put her on the stretcher and they get her into the emergency. And I want to go in. They're like, no, please stay outside. Then the doctor comes to me and she says to me, I'm sorry, but dead on arrival. I said to that doctor, not my child. It can't be. My daughter was not sick. She can't be dead. What are you talking about? I said, you're going to resuscitate. You're going to resuscitate my daughter. She's going to wake up. So I had a lot of doctors going in and out, in and out, in and out. And then the next thing they said, oh, there's a pulse. And then by that time I had phoned my other relatives, my cousins and my sisters and my uncles and everyone. And I'm like, guys, just come to the hospital. I don't know what's happening. And my son is there. So they say, there's a pulse. So now they take off the machine and they've got this other thing that they pump, but she's got something that they're pumping for her. So they're running around and I'm running after them. And they're like, you have to sit there. We're taking her for checks. So they take her for x-rays, whatever scans, whatever that they need to do. And then the next thing, they put her into the ICU ward. And when I walked into the ICU ward, I've never seen my daughter with so many pipes in the nose, pipe in the mouth, that's something on the head. And then her body had a white foil from the neck down. She had a white foil. And I asked them, I said, why do you have the white foil? And the doctor says to me, there's bleeding in the head. And so we need to try and keep the brain cool, the head cool. So that's why they put that thing to make the head cool. And I said, is she going to be okay? They said, please go wait. So they made me go wait in another room. But now the ICU, the glass, it's all glass. So I can see what's happening. So doctors are going in and out, in and out. Then they put a trauma counselor. It didn't click to me. Why are they bringing a trauma counselor? And then they come and they show me x-rays. And the x-rays they show me, they're like, it's pure white. And healthy x-rays, it's supposed to be black inside. And I'm like, so what are you saying to me? They're like, the female doctor said to me, pray. I said, what's going on? And then they allow me to go into the ward. And the doctor says to me, the machine is breathing for your child. So all I could hear was doot, 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 doot. And then she says to me, please just wait and listen. So as it's going doot, 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 there's a doot. Then it stops. Then after a few minutes, doot, and she says, those ones your daughter's fighting to stay alive. And I'm like, what's going on? What happened? She says, did your daughter fall by the head? I said, no. She said, we're still doing tests. We're going to let you know. I think the time by then is around about 7 a.m. because I've been at the hospital since
All
about
night. Yeah.
3 a.m. I've been there. And then they're like, please go home. Visiting hours for ICU are from 11 o'clock. Your daughter will be okay. And at that time, my son was not even allowed to be in the,
Proximity.
yeah, because they said from 16 up.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that time, he was still 14. So I'm in my pajamas. I walk out, I drive, we go home. My relatives are there by that time. So my house and the hospital are like 7 minutes away. As soon as I get home, my phone rings. And they're like, are you Sihle Sibisi? I said, yes. They said, what's your relationship with Kanyisile? I said, she's my daughter. And they're like, you need to come back. I said, why? They said, there's a form you didn't sign. I immediately just threw my phone to my aunt. I don't know what they said to my aunt, but my aunt said to me, get in the car, we need to go.
Mm-hmm.
So we all went back into the car and drove back to the hospital. But this time when I got to the hospital, when I got into the ICU, my daughter's ward, the curtains were shut. So I start asking, why are the curtains shut? Why are the curtains shut? And they say, no, we're still cleaning her up. Please wait. I'm like, why are they shut? What's going on? They're like, we're cleaning her up. Please just wait. We're just bathing her. Then I sat. I waited for I waited for some time, but I could see the doctor pouncing on the phone and I could see other doctors there. It was like a lot of doctors just there. Then they call me. And the doctor says to me, as soon as you left, your daughter started bleeding through the ears, through the mouth, through the nose. She just started bleeding. So it means she had a rupture in the brain. So I think your daughter was holding on. She didn't want you to experience that. She wanted you to leave before she could actually
Go through it.
And oh my God.
So sorry.
Then they took me in the ward and they even showed me, because they had to suction the blood out of her now. They showed me, I saw the tanks of blood. And I sat there and I begged her. I said, come back to mommy. Come back, baby. So we had a private pathologist because if we took her to the government mortuary, it might have taken longer. And he was so gracious to me because he was able to take me through and explain to me what happened. He literally drew the brain for me. And he literally showed me what aneurysms look like. And he showed me to say, this is how it popped. This is what happened. This is what happened to your daughter. And I said, why her? He said, unfortunately for children, sometimes it's hereditary. So you might find it's either from your family or her father's family. They've got a history of aneurysms. And you find with children, when an aneurysm bursts, as it bursts, 60% of the time it's fatal. And if a child survives from an aneurysm burst, they'll never be the same. They'll be wheelchair bound. They won't be able to talk. Because once you have a brain bleed, it wipes away brain memory. So it means she would have been in a wheelchair and a cabbage all her life. That's when social media went at me. That's when the so-called Christians said, touch not my anointed. You went and spoke about TB Joshua 3 days ago. Now the God of TB Joshua is showing you who he is. Your daughter died because you spoke about TB Joshua. Stop talking about the man of God, otherwise your son is next. That is when social media, that is when I learned that Christians are cruel. That is when I learned that the title of being a Christian carries a lot of cruelty with it. I've just lost a child. I've just lost a 10-year-old child. That's when bloggers from Zimbabwe, from wherever, started saying, yes, I'm a prostitute. That's when my private numbers were leaked on social media, and somebody started creating messages as if it's from my WhatsApp messages, saying to people I'm offering sexual services to them. That's when my phone was people were phoning asking for sexual services from me. That's when one blogger from Zimbabwe went on to say, I'm a prostitute. I've been wanting to seduce all these pastors, or I've slept with all these pastors. Look, there was nothing under the face of the sun that social media did not say about me when I lost my daughter, more especially Christians. So my daughter died because the BBC documentary dropped on the 8th of January. And according to the Christian Society, touch not my anointed. And that's my repercussion for speaking out of the abuse I went through. So
Losing your daughter to the Christian community in the world at large was a consequence.
yeah.
A consequence of you spending your childhood being abused,
Yes.
violated.
Yes.
Christians who are supposed to anchor their beliefs on the cornerstone of love.
Yeah.
Because they are papa,
Yeah.
can never do wrong.
Yeah. And that's when my family then decided to just step in and take my phones, and my sister-in-law took my phones, and they were like, Sihle, you stay off social media. Because that's when people were just gunning off, like, I've just lost a child.
Yeah.
And that's when one social blogger from Zimbabwe said, I killed my child, or I strangled my child, and we're going to cremate my child because we're going to hide the evidence, just like I killed my husband, my late husband who passed away in 2016. And I did a ritual for my daughter to die. There's nothing they never said. And that's when, as a family, my family protected me. The Sibisi family, umamkhulu wami, my mom's blood sister, my mom's elder sister, the firstborn, she was by my side through it all. My umamkhulu wami wasethembisa, umamkhulu Zandile, and my brother's wife, Bridget, she was by my side through it all. So I had the Sibisi family and the Nkosi family carrying me through all of this. And they were like, we're not going to listen to what social media says. We know what the autopsy says. In as much as we don't know what brain aneurysm is, ruptured brain aneurysm is, we'll learn about it later, but right now we need to bury our child. And that's one of the reasons why at my daughter's funeral, we opened the casket and we allowed people to go view her. Because rumor had it, it's either she's going to have strangle marks, and yet she was wearing her beautiful dress that she wore once. She wore it at the Miss Soweto pageant when she went there to support Miss Cikizwa, who was her model coach since she was 3 years old. She was wearing her pink dress it's a low neck dress. So you could see if there were scars. There was nothing. And people went to see her because others thought there'd be stones and whatever. But the greatest pain of it all was, I thought when funerals happen, you would expect reconciliation, right? You'd expect even those that you're fighting with to say,
soften their hearts.
You know what? Let's come bury the child.
Yeah.
My mom doesn't even know where I stay. They had to call her to say your granddaughter passed on. They had to send her my address. They had to send her location of where I stay. And when she got there, she walked into the house, walked into my bedroom, and she said, I remember she stood and she had her hands folded like this. And she said, what happened to the child? And I was sitting with my son on my bed. So my son was afraid now. He says, but mommy, we're going to get arrested when Gogo is here because remember the protection order. And I said to him, no. She's come to us. We haven't gone to her. So we're safe. And when we explained what happened, immediately she said, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Lord, we glorify your name. You have done it. You have done it for us. And my whole body went numb. My whole body went numb. Then she turned and she said to me, what do you want me to do for you? And I said, I just want you to be there for me. And then she turned and said to my son, what do you want me to do for you? And my son said, I just want you to just love me. And she said, oh, well, I just have a cabbage. I'm going to donate one cabbage. It's in the boot. That's all I have. And then I have to go. And then she stepped out and left. That was the end of it. And the next time I saw her was at my daughter's funeral. And at my daughter's funeral, this is actually the third time I wear this headgear. I wore it for the first time at my daughter's funeral because the theme was pink and white.
Yeah.
And I wore it for the second time at a women's event. And today I felt, let me just wear it. And she was the only one dressed in black from head to toe. She was wearing this long garment, like these, I don't know if you watch these Nigerian garments, these long black garments.
Yes.
Yeah, she was wearing like a long black garment, the only one. Because we had said, if you're a man and you're wearing a suit, please at least wear a pink tie or a pink flower, but you need pink to be visible.
Sure. Because it's a young girl's
It's
celebration.
a young girl's celebration, yes.
Yes.
I mean, even the funeral parlor that did my daughter's funeral, they literally had to get the couches custom made into sweet pink because I wanted sweet pink couches for the family, for my daughter. And her coffin was white and the flowers were pink, silver. It was beautiful. So I'm told that she arrived there by 6 a.m. I'm told by the venue people. And I'm told by because the MC and the people who are planning were there before me, the people who are doing decor and everything.
Sure.
They say she arrived and I think she was anointing every corner of that hall. I don't know what she was doing. But the bottom line is, throughout the funeral, was she not dancing? Was she not having, for her, was dancing as if it's a party. And she was taking pictures. And at that time, I had asked to tell the program director to say, please tell people not to take pictures and videos. And the reason why I didn't want that, I'm trending already. I didn't want people to take pictures of my daughter's funeral, then it's trending on social media. So I remember a friend of mine, Palisa Mudisekwane, she went to my mom. She didn't even know it's my mom. But she went there and said, sorry, ma'am, can you please stop taking pictures because we asked not to. And Palisa then tells me later that she said, I'm Sihle's mother, don't you know? And Palisa was shocked. She said, I didn't know Sihle had a mother, I'm sorry. And she walked away. And when we went to the gravesite, the pastors, my daughter's burial was handled by Umam Ngobo, Nobab Ngobo. They're formerly known, or they're known as Ihasheli Mhlophe.
Yes.
And they decided amongst themselves that they're going to wear white. So they brought other pastors, but all the pastoral team, they were all dressed in white.
Yes.
Because we're sending off an angel.
Sure.
And Mam Ngobo preached about love at the funeral. She preached about love. And her preaching was just, it was, oh my God. The Sibisi family came from everywhere. They all came from KZN. They were there. So at the graveyards, where my daughter's coffin was lined up before it went down, Mam Ngobo and the pastoral team is there. And they were praying. And then as the casket was about to go down, so when I watched the video, I saw myself. At that moment, I didn't know, but when I watched the video later, as the casket was going down, I literally threw myself into the grave. So I was held down. So they say half my body was inside. I literally was going in with my daughter. So as that was happening, apparently my mom stood up and she went there and she had a bottle of oil that she wanted to throw into the coffin. And a brother of mine, Snobile, said to her, what are you doing? Because the pastors were praying as the coffin was going down.
Correct.
And Snobile said to her, what are you doing? She said, I'm going to throw this. And he said, "Sizoqubula." She says, and in the conversation I'm told, she says, "I'm going to scream." And he says, "Well, you can't put anything in this coffin and you can't be around this coffin right now. Please go and sit down." Literally, the funeral parlor people had to help to remove her from that place.
Sure.
So they removed her, and when they removed her, now remember, when all of this is happening, I'm now trying to get into the grave and they trying to stop me. My brothers are holding me back. And I'm told afterwards, and when I saw the video, she went into her car and she was hooting as if it's a wedding. Like wedding hoots, like it's a wedding. And that's when, for me, I realized that Christians are cruel. Those who claim to be Christians, those who are Bible readers, those who appear on TV, because how painful is it that my mother appears on TV because her church is on TV. She's got spiritual children that she prays for, that she loves, that adore her. And when they look at her, they think she's the greatest being on earth, but her own biological child, she wants nothing to do with. And that's when I saw that, okay, you know what? I need to learn to accept an apology that I may never receive for my own sanity. Because even the death of my daughter was not able to bring forth reconciliation
Between us.
Yeah. Because what crime have I done to you for you to hate me this much? My own biological sisters also did not even come to the funeral. I hear they were there, but they were sitting in the car. So I'm like, what was the point? So for me, if you say you're a Christian, good for you, you're a Christian. But in my world right now, those who claim to be Christians, those fireproof, fire-praying Christians, those ones, they did me dirty. They were very cruel towards me during the death of my daughter. So that goes back to why I say my heart is at a point of contentment, because my son doesn't have aneurysms. We know he's diagnosed with depression. He's on medication for it. And I'm thankful to the psychiatrist. I'm thankful to my family. And I'm thankful for those people on social media who still love me beyond it all. And also thankful to those who hate me. Thankful to those who still want to speak nonsense about me and curse me and hate me, because then you're giving me more reason to want to find this God. You're giving me more reason to want to journey, because I'm in pursuit of finding this God. I don't want somebody to say to me, God said, God did this, because I was introduced to the wrong God. When they said God is saying...
Was it even God?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I'm in pursuit of finding this God, having my own personal encounter. But I do believe there is a God, because I see in my life, if there was no God, I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you.
Sure.
Chances are I also would have died with my daughter.
Yeah, you would have followed her in
I would
that
have
moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And chances are, with everything that I've trended for in this world, I would have died by then. So I do believe there's a God, but I don't want somebody to say to me, God said. No. Because when somebody said to me, God said, there was abuse that would come with it. So when you're a Christian and you are fireproofing, fire tongue speaking Christian, in my world, you played a role in hurting me. So when I talk of grief, I'm still grieving and mourning and trying to heal from all of that also, and reconciling to the fact that Christians hurt me in the worst way possible. But at the same time, if my own biological mother and my own biological sisters will not want me and will ill-treat me like that, why should I really be hurt by people that I'm not even related to?
There's something you said that a lot of the bloggers and Christian society came like a ton of bricks on you and made you feel like you deserved what happened to you as a consequence of exposing the abuse and the violence that you went through in the church, as per the BBC documentary. Did you ever internalize that guilt of maybe I shouldn't have done that, and really it is a consequence?
Never, because I've been talking about the abuse that I experienced at the hands of TB Joshua while he was still alive. So that is why people who are only introduced to me now, they are the ones that will say, why are they talking when he's passed on?
Sure.
They are the ones that will say, why is a documentary out when he's passed on? In my private capacity, I've been talking while he was still alive. And when the BBC was doing the documentary, they did give you, he knew the documentary was going to come out. They did send him documentation, legal documentations for a right of reply. Unfortunately, he passed on
In the process.
before the documentary could come out.
Yeah.
So people who are introduced, that's why those who will want to say, you're only talking now because he's dead, touch not my anointed, who they're only getting to know Sihle Sibisi now. They introduced to me now. They don't know, because even after he passed on, I was interviewed to say, how do I feel that he's passed on? I said, condolences to his wife. But all I'm saying is he robbed us of closure because we wanted to know what his right of reply would have been. So never did I feel the guilt of saying I shouldn't have spoken out. No, I needed people to be aware, not just me. I mean, there are people from Singapore, people from all over the world, USA. If you watch the
We definitely watched
documentary,
it, yeah.
everyone
Globally.
globally
Yeah,
saying
it's
the same thing.
Yeah.
So if Sihle Sibisi is lying, are you saying to me that all of us on that documentary came together and lied? It can't be.
You guys weren't even together.
We were not even. I didn't
We're
even
in
know.
different parts of the
We didn't
world.
even know
Yeah.
that who was being interviewed, because
Yeah.
remember at TB Joshua's church, if you watch the documentary, there was that divide and rule system where we couldn't trust each other. So I didn't know if he was doing that to you or doing whatever to whoever. So we didn't even know who was being interviewed until we had the reunion for it.
God has a funny way of returning us back to our purpose even after trauma.
Yeah.
You now host a show called Fake Pastors, which is a show that exposes pastors and prophets and
Yeah.
preachers who are using dark spirits or scamming for
Yeah.
money, many ills of this world,
Yeah.
in order to brainwash and
Yeah.
control people. A lot of people in South Africa especially are suffering from this
Yeah.
religious psychosis.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
It is, yeah.
They go into a trance in churches that is unbelievable, that has nothing to do with God. Why do you think people are suffering so much from religious psychosis in this country?
It's the grooming. I mean, I was groomed, and everyone, and here's the thing, people in South Africa need to understand that I don't hate pastors. I'm not against whatever religion they believe in. But what happens with the show is somebody writes to Mojalav and say, this pastor did 1, 2, 3. There's an investigator who will go and investigate and verify. And only then do I come into the picture, because they've investigated. Here's the proof. So I go as a mediator.
Yeah.
And you find what happens is there's grooming that happens. These pastors are very good at grooming you into thinking that they are the mouthpiece and the voices of God. And if you do not do that which they say, there are consequences you will suffer. That is why most of them, when you leave their churches, they will tell the ones that are still within the church to say, the one that has left, don't speak to them, because they are evil now. They are demonic. They are masters at manipulating people for them to hand over their houses, their monies, their cars, you name it. They've become masters at this. For me, it's no longer about church. For them, it's a business. For them, it's occultic. That's why I say church hurt is real. And every person that comes on our show, I believe them. Because some of them, you sit with them, and some of the time when I'm helping these people, I look at myself and I think,
I used to be there.
Yeah, I used to be there, but at the same time, I wish someone could help me.
Like this.
I wish somebody could help me face my mom.
Yeah.
I wish somebody, because she is a pastor in her church. I wish somebody could go with me to her and sit down and say, let's iron it out. What's going on? But because of the gag order, the protection order, I can't do that. I wish somebody could help me go see my senior sister. I can't do that because she's married to my uncle and my uncle's a pastor and there's a protection order. I can't do that. So as I'm hosting the show, for me, it's a healing vehicle for me, where I'm saying I am healing as others are getting healed and they are getting their justice through the hurt that they've been through, because church hurt is real.
We're nearing the end of our conversation. The continuum of healing is a long process. It has ups and downs, troughs, highs and lows.
the painful, tragic loss of your daughter,
Mhm.
TK, where are we in this cycle of healing today?
Whew. I think for me, like I said to you, 2-3 days before I came here, when my son had the episode, a lot of triggers came up again. And I found myself crying as if it was the first time my daughter passed on. I even went live on social media and I was crying. And I was crying. And some people were saying, why are you crying publicly? And I'm thinking, why should you only see my life when I'm happy? I don't see myself as a celebrity. I'm not. I'm a normal human being. And maybe if somebody sees me as raw as I am in my pain, somebody out there is drawing strength to say, so behind the makeup, when she's home, she's actually a human being. She's a normal person. That's why I always say to people, don't wish for another person's life. You don't know what they go through behind the scenes. When I'm wearing makeup and I'm on TV and I'm hosting a show, yes, she's pretty, she's beautiful. Oh, I want to be like Sihle. Oh, I want her life. Mtakatedi, behind the scenes, I'm a grieving mom. Behind the scenes, I'm a mother that's grieving. I've got an angel daughter. And for me, I now look at it as my daughter accepted a promotional post to heaven. So when people ask me, how many children do you have? I say, I've got 2 kids. My daughter's on a promotional post in heaven.
Yeah.
She accepted it.
Yeah.
And I've got a son on earth. So I'm an angel mom and an earth mom.
Yeah.
So whether I like it or not, at the end of it all, my son deserves a happy version of me. And how does he get that? I also am on medication for my mental health. I also am seeing a psychiatrist. That is why I say to people, I advocate for a positive and a healthy mental health. To say, guys, as Black people, you'll say, cry, you'll be okay. No, but sometimes crying is not enough. Sometimes you need medication because maybe you have a chemical imbalance. And taking medication doesn't mean you're crazy. You're trying to win yourself back to yourself and regulate your system back.
Yeah.
And that's why I publicly say I am on medication. I am seeing a psychiatrist because at the end of the day, yes, I might have my bad days, but my son deserves a happy version of me. And that's what I'm striving for. So I look at it and I say, well, TK, you accepted your promotional post. It means God said, Sihle, I'll give you this angel for 10 years. She's going to play a role in your life for 10 years. And I believe she lived a full life because she was a pageant queen. She did Minimus SA. She cooked, she baked, she was a public speaker, she was a swimmer, she was an academic all-rounder. She was a bright spark. And even if you go on her page, Kwanele Foundation, or if you go on the Kanyisile Pediatric page on TikTok or Instagram, you will see her before her death. She was an all-rounder. And I look back and I say, yeah, God, this child lived. She lived a full life.
She ran her race.
She
ran her race.
She ran her race.
Yeah.
And the other day, Umam Ngobo said to me, go and read the story of, you know, the song that says, "It is well with my soul."
Yeah.
She said, go read a story. Go on Google. Go on YouTube and Google who wrote that song and read why he wrote that song. And when I read the history that this man lost his entire family at sea, and the only one that survived was his wife. And through all of that, losing all of them, he wrote the song, "It is well with my soul." And so for me, what gives me strength, sometimes I wake up and I say, God, she's not here in the physical. I miss her. I see kids her age who are 11 years old now. And I think, oh, she could have, she would have. I feel she robbed me of the milestone of her starting her adolescent stage. She robbed me of her milestone of starting high school. She robbed me of many milestones that I wish I would have been part of. But then I remember and I say, it is well. In the pain, it is well. There are others where there's a woman who shared with me that all 4 of her kids passed away. She's in her 60s. And she says, what must I do? So when I say it is well, I say, God, I still have this son that you've left me with, who's going to be somebody's future husband one day. He's going to be a great man. I speak greatness into my son all the time. And I say, I do not want him to bleed onto another mother's child. I do not want him to turn to drugs. I do not want him to bleed onto people and say, I grew up with trauma and nobody was there for me. So my duty as a mom, as I say it is well, we will see our psychiatrist. He will take his medication. And God being faithful, academically, he's doing well. He's a sportsman. He plays basketball. He's very tall. He plays basketball. He plays soccer. He's an all-rounder. But he's the complete opposite of TK. TK was like her mom, chatterbox nonstop. He's the quiet one. He's a quiet, gentle soul. And for me, my duty is making sure that through this pain, my son's traumas must heal, because I don't want him to grow up one day and be like us, who are still trying to heal our childhood traumas. And that is why he won't stop his psychiatrist visits. And that is why he won't stop conversating, taking his medication, being around people who are healthy towards him. That's where I am with my daughter and the journey.
Sihle Sibisi, what's that one thing in life you know for sure and you're absolutely certain of?
One thing I know for sure and I'm absolutely certain of is that all of us, we don't know how, we don't know when, but all of us one day, we won't be here. We will leave this earth. And I say because I once went to a funeral in a country out of South Africa. And when we drove into the cemetery, there was a big sign that said, welcome. But when we drove out, there was another big sign, but it said, we were once like you. So one thing I'm certain of is, while we're still breathing, while I'm still breathing as Sihle Sibisi, I am going to do that which I'm mandated to do. I am going to own my narrative, whether people want to criticize me or not. It's my truth. It's my pain. It happened to me. It happened to my son. But it can't define us. It can never define us. Instead, let somebody look at me and say, if Sihle Sibisi can still talk through all that she's going through, let me draw strength. Let it be. Because I see my son. I tell my son, I say, you're going to be one of those boys. I see you on the stage one day, maybe winning a medal for soccer or something, or academically, where you'll stand and say, my mom. I mean, I celebrated my 40th birthday just last month. And when my son spoke, he said, to everyone in this room, none of you have seen my tears. The only person that has seen my tears is my mother. And he says that's because I trust her. And he says if I could describe my mom, she's a fighter. She's a warrior. And he said my mom has carried me through things that none of you would ever expect as I grieve my sister. So one thing that I'm certain of, we will all leave this earth one day. But while we're still here, what are we doing? Are we fixing the wrongs that we've done? Are we making sure that we're owning our stories? Are we making sure that our pain, our traumas, whatever we've been through, we own it? Because there's power in owning it. We own it, we acknowledge it, but we make sure that it doesn't define us. Because once it defines you, that's when you lose yourself.
The show is Engineer Your Life, and I'm Lungelo KM. Remember that God is love, even in your grief, in your pain. Don't neglect God. Also remember that there is no man or woman on earth whom you must trust beyond God, who is the vehicle that connects you to God. It's only Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Thank you so much, Sihle Sibisi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Kholwa emandleni onawo.
Oh my, we're finally doing this. What does EYL Africa represent? It's about standing in your power. It's about, in isiZulu, it's kholwa emandleni onawo, which is our tagline. You will see it on the back of my t-shirts. It's about believing in the power that you have believing in the power that your God, your guides have invested in you. Shop our socks, shop our t-shirt, and yeah, just keep believing in yourself. EYL Africa.
Now available on EYLshop.Africa.